Okay, I'm going to talk again about breaking something down in manageable chunks and different tasks. So, on the day of the flood in my apartment, the first priority was safety. There was water on the floor. I needed to get as quickly as possible, safely as possible, to that electric panel. And my father had taught me, when there are certain situations, you're going to put down other things along your pathway, kind of like rocks on a pathway, so that you jump from this to that to get to a safe place until you can turn the power off. And I did that. And when the carpenter who we were going to work on a totally different project that day came in and he's like, did you turn the power off? And I'm like, I already did it. So the point is, at that point, I had already taken the most important step that was just safety, and it was just the baseline that had to be done. Once that safety was established and we weren't going to get electrocuted, then we could move things around and drag things and pull things out and undo the sump pump and, get the remaining drain to go and get fans going. You get what I'm saying? Like, all of those other additional steps came after safety was established. And that was in the beginning of the day of the flood, okay? As the project advanced, okay, and the walls had to be cut out, the floors had to be totally removed. But before you could cut the walls and before you could pull out the floors, you had to remove everything that was in the apartment. That meant all the cabinetry, all the furniture, all of the variables, the knickknacks, the photos, the this, the that, the china, all that stuff had to just miraculously evaporate and disappear from that room in order to be able to address the other problems, because we couldn't get to those, quote, deeper problems until we got the, quote, surface problems out of the way. So the original surface problems were just removing all of my personal belongings out of the space. So I started to delegate. First of all, I got on the phone and I let other people know that I needed help. And my best friend and her son showed up. My mom showed up. My carpenter was already there. I was there. And now we had a team of people to start working together. Now, somebody has to take the ultimate responsibility and be the leader. In this case, that was me. The problem is, when you have various people that think that they're the leader in their lives, you're going to again have potential conflict, because Charlie is a leader in sense of carpentry and fixing things and that sort of thing. And my mom is a leader in terms of cleaning and administrative things. And Kim is a leader in being sensitive and compassionate, and also in administrative tasks. And Ethan is good at, again, communication and lifting heavy things and being proactive to go, I think we should do this next. Is that okay if I jump to this? Yes. But also respecting authority, which is I was the person who was the decision maker in this scenario. So the point is, in this scenario, we had to cooperate, which means one person has to assume the responsibility as the leader. And in this situation, that was me. So people would come to me, Anne, what do you want to do about this? Oh, Charlie, if you and Ethan can start ripping out all of the floor panels, starting right here in this corner, Kim, my mom, and I are going to move all this stuff on this side of the room so that by the time you get to ripping out this, we should be done with that. That's a plan of action. Did we sit down, write a blueprint, have a board meeting, have 3 other board meetings, still be an indecision? No. In the moment, something had to be done and we did it. Period. It's about taking action, okay? Now, once things now move from emergency situation to getting, to getting the physical things that are water damaged out of the house, okay? And they're just shoved on the driveway, they're shoved on the patio, they're thrown out the window. It's like the quickest way to get that yuck out as fast as possible, okay? So the first step was just getting it out. But once we've gotten everything out and we've moved all of the physical belongings that were in cabinets, that were on shelves, they're now in boxes. All those boxes are now moved to a different floor. They're being moved into my truck. They're being moved upstairs. They're going to be moved to a storage locker, etc. Okay? There was a process, and each moment there was a leader for that part of the process. So, for example, when I assigned to my mom and to Kim to handle the china, the dishes, all of those things, I know and I am confident that my mother knows how, after years of owning homes and moving, that she knows how to pack and deal with glassware that is fragile. I did not need to give my mom a lesson or instruct her on how to do any of those things, because she already knew how to do those things. So it would have been a waste of my time for me to be like, Mom, what I really want you to do is put bubble wrap around. No, it wasn't necessary to even have the conversation because the baseline was already established. Now, my mom could take the lead, and then she could then instruct the helper, Kim, and say, Kim, I'm going to do this pile right here. So if you could hold this in place while I'm gathering this, then together they worked as a team to pack all of the fragile china, okay? And dishes and whatever else. Meanwhile, the next phase, when all of the furniture, the belongings, and everything are now out of the room, and all of the wet wood flooring has all been removed, okay? And so now all of that is out of the way. In order for us to even get to the flooring, all of the cabinets had to be removed. They were installed, so they had to be de-installed. So that meant that every single cabinet, countertop, all of those things that were in the kitchen, they all had to be removed. And so then after those things were removed, then that portion of flooring was ripped up. And then we would go to the other side and we would unload those cabinets with cleaning supplies or dish towels and linens, whatever. So what I'm saying is, we work on one side, that would be removed from the belongings, then the cabinetry would be de-installed, and then we would move on to the next section until the entire room was emptied of all the cabinetry. Then it was time to lift up the floor, remove all the flooring and all of the insulation under the flooring. And then after that was established, then Charlie came in, and again, he was the expert on this portion, not me. So then I deferred to him and I said, Charlie, what do we need to do now? So that's an example of I was leading up to that point. But when we got to that particular portion, I needed Charlie to lead because I didn't have the skill set to know exactly what to do next or how to do it. So then my role as leader became helper. And then Charlie began to lead. And then he said, what we need to do is I need all of these particular tools. So then I became the helper to get all of those particular tools so that we could start cutting the walls, cutting the drywall, and getting all the fans and hooking up the fans, getting extension cords so that once we cut the walls, that we had fans running for several days to dry out the walls so that the mold spores would die. In addition to that, I had an ionizer. So I would place the ionizer in the room, obviously when no humans were in the room, and that would again kill the mold spores. So what I'm getting at is, at some point, one person has to take the lead, okay? And then that person is going to delegate to other people, and those people are going to then be leaders. And in the situation of packing up the supplies, my mom was the leader, and then she was showing Kim specifically how to do it in a certain way so that all the things would be packed in a safe way. Once that phase was complete and the walls were dried out, the floors were painted and sealed with a, I don't know what you call it, but it's a basement floor sealant that goes on concrete. And once that was put down, and then the floors that had the built-in insulation, the floors were put down. And the floor trim, the walls were replaced. And then the drywall, the sanding, the taping, then the painting, then the finishing of the molding strips, and making sure everything was in place. The point is, all of these phases and steps, there were different people leading in different ways, okay? So, when I now am faced with going through all the boxes that were packed months ago, which I haven't seen for months, and I am now carrying in a box at a time and taking these things and going, okay, I'm going to put these things in this cabinet. It might not have been in that cabinet before because so much time has passed. I might choose to put my things in a new place now until I assess what I have, what was damaged, what is still usable, because a lot of these things were done in haste. They were done very quickly. And when you have to make decisions quickly, sometimes you're not going to really think about things in their totality because you're just making a decision very quickly for the moment. So now, as I put things back together, and it's like curating an apartment, and the look and the feel and the way that you want the environment to be is what happens when you start over. So choosing a sofa. I went through a couple sofas until I got the right sofa, because sometimes you sit on it in the store and it feels like it's going to work. You get it delivered in your space and you're like, I don't like it. It's too big. It's too this. It's too that. And then you have to go through the process of returning and then selecting what the next item is going to be. So this whole process of choosing new furniture, which is going to fit your new space. Now, previously, I had a very light colored bamboo floor. And then a lot of the furniture that matched that were of a light bamboo color. But then when I put everything back into the room, the things that were not damaged or that were damaged, that we repaired them, the point is that when I brought some of these items back into the room, it didn't look right because the floor now is a darker color. And so sometimes you look at what you had before, and it just, the heaviness of whatever I had before, it doesn't feel right now. And so I wanted to go with a more minimalist feel and environment. And so that meant that some of the heavier pieces of furniture that I had in there before, they had to go. Which then means you need to sell those things or give those things away. Again, it requires the help of additional strong people to be able to carry these heavy things, to remove them from your environment. And then, again, deciding on, well, what furniture can I get that is going to fill the space, but that is going to be lightweight and more mobile friendly for me, that I was able to get a leather sofa that was, oh my gosh, so much lighter than the one that I had before. And it looks minimalist and it's comfortable and I can still lay down on it and I can sit on it comfortably. So what I'm getting at is sometimes we don't even know what we want until it's in the environment and we're like, yes, this is going to work. And other times we are totally determined that the thing that we are sitting in the store is exactly what we want. And then when we get it into our environment, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't match. It's just not right. And so what that teaches us is that you just really don't know until you know. And it is a process of leveling up. It's a process of leveling up. It's a process of maturing. It's a process of determining what's right for that space, for this moment. Now, the irony of all of this is that I'm working diligently to go through these boxes, get my stuff put back together, make decisions on these things and the stuff. Do I want this? Do I want to keep it? Do I want to sell it? Do I want to give it away? And as I look at these things and revisit, does this bring me joy? Is this really enhancing my life? If it isn't, can I pass it on to somebody else who it might bring joy to them? So as we go through this process, again, it is ironic because if my camper van was not flooded, okay, I would have very simply been living out of the van while the apartment was being redone, and it would not have been such a difficulty. But being homeless and displaced from my camper van to a hotel, not just one hotel, but 3 hotels, while the apartment was getting done. Again, it's difficult to have a sense of place when all of your belongings that make it a sense of place are not present. When you go to a hotel room, the reason why it's easier to concentrate or because none of your stuff is there. I mean, the only things you have are a suitcase of your clothes and maybe your laptop and, you know, whatever food that you bought at the grocery store or whatever food you ordered in for takeout. I mean, that's pretty much what you have in a hotel room. You don't have your emotional fluffy pillows. You don't have your knickknacks. You don't have your photographs of your loved ones. You don't have your personal touches that make the space feel like home. When you're in a hotel, it's generic that anybody could sit on the sofa. It's generic that you have what you need to take a shower, to, get some rest, to make a meal. There's a desk for you to sit down and do some work on your laptop. But there aren't the, quote, normal comforts or the normal distractions that you would have if you were at home. So on one level, being at the hotel, I was able to be hyper focused when I was writing my graduate papers because I didn't have any distractions physically on site at the hotel. I just could focus on what reading assignment I had and my assessment of that and write a paper. But it doesn't take away the fact that the stress was still there. It doesn't take away the fact that I still felt like I was uprooted, that my roots had been pulled away and that I'm floating in the ethers. So it still was an uncomfortable experience. But now the other part of this is getting regrounded. The other part of this is choosing what's going to stay, choosing what needs to go, choosing about what type of feel or furniture or environment I want to put back together because what I had before no longer works. And many of those things were destroyed in the flood. So I can't put those same things back in place. So I hope that helps somebody. Sometimes I think I'm going on a certain tangent and it comes out differently. So I think what I'm getting at is your environment should support you. And what supported me before the flood was different. And what will support me going forward is different. And the irony is that when you go through something like this, it definitely accelerates your desires for what you really want. And what I really want is a different situation. It's a different environment. It's a different location. It's a different way of waking up in the morning. It's a whole completely different experience that I'm seeking. And I've always wanted land. I really am more of a country person. I like quiet. I like solitude. And I like to be able to do things simply. Like I like having a wood burning fireplace. I like some of the chores that are part of the process of daily living. I like that. So right now, my focus is on finding land. So it's funny how sometimes God creates these circumstances. We think that we're going to be able to go back and put that square peg in a round hole, but we can't. And once some of these things happen, it's like sometimes God rearranges things so that it's difficult to go back to things the way that they were. And your vision is bigger and greater, and therefore you're being catapulted in a totally different path, in a different way, with a different vision. So I ask you these questions. What do you really want? What are you committed to go get? Who can you have on your team to help you get there? And what are you going to do today to make it happen? Have a good one.